We've had the same iMac design for the past 9 years, and the same front design for the past 11 years. Please Tim, give us a new design with super thin bezels, like the Pro Display XDR.
Sure, here you go.
I honestly don't know what to say, guys. This iMac redesign looks definitely not like what I was expecting. But regardless, here are my thoughts on the iMac redesign. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is, of course, the design, as this is a gigantic change. Everyone has been complaining about the iMac looking the same from the front since 2009. Apple did launch their Pro Display XDR back in 2019, and therefore we were all expecting the new iMac to have a design that resembles that, but we were wrong, like very, very wrong. In fact, the new iMac looks ugly AF. Come on, Apple, what is this? Look at that chin, it's so massive. Why is the chin still there, and why do we have all of these colors? I'm honestly disappointed. Very, very, very disappointed. So, from the sides, the new iMac looks pretty amazing as it is super thin at just 11.5 millimeters, and it kind of resembles an iPad Pro with a Magic Keyboard, which I think is a beautiful design continuity on Apple's end. And the back also looks stunning as well. But the front, I just cannot get past how ugly the front is, especially with that chin. Also, why did Apple remove the Apple logo, as there's still plenty of space on that chin for it? Anyway, I've had a look at the teardown images, and it seems like the chin does actually have a purpose, which is to house the entire iMac. You see, thanks to the M1 chip, the logic board is crazy small now, and literally all the iMac components, including the cooling system, as well as the speakers, they all fit in that chin. And above that, we have the display, and that's pretty much it. Some could argue that Apple needed to have that chin, which isn't true at all. Something that is true though is that only 22.4% of you watching this video are actually subscribed to the channel. What are you doing, guys? It's free to subscribe, you don't have to pay anything, and you get access to some more awesome videos such as this one hopefully is. So let's try and bring this number to 50%. Let's try and do that. Back to the chin, Apple could have easily moved the components behind the display, and the only downside that way would have been a slightly thicker iMac. However, the upside would have been no chin at all, which I think would have made this iMac look so much better. However, the presence of the chin isn't my only complaint with this new iMac design. There's also the frame, which for some reason, Apple decided to make full white. And I gotta be honest here, I think the frame being white is an even worse decision than having the chin in, as whenever you watch a movie, that frame will immediately stand out. Oh, and most people use dark mode now, which again will make the frame and the chin both stand out like crazy. Speaking of the frame and the chin, I actually did a quick Photoshop job and I added an Apple logo to the chin, which to me looks miles better. And then I also wanted to see how would this iMac look if the frame was actually black. So here you go. It kind of looks identical to the old iMac. How interesting is that? This means that Apple didn't actually change the front design that much, but instead they changed the colors and removed the Apple logo to give us the impression that this is a new design, whereas in reality it is pretty much the same thing again. Okay, so how do I feel about the colors? Well, I think they're okay for the most part. I did want some vibrant colors on the iMac, at least after that leak that we've seen, where all of them were pastel, and that's pretty much what we got. I do like most of the colors, but what I don't like is that we do not have a black variant. This was something that was reported before, as seen in John Prosser's render, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. Oh, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but these new iMacs have a dual tone color. So they have a super vibrant back, and then a pastel tint on the stand and the chin. Now, I do believe that Apple is reserving that space gray color for the upcoming 32-inch model, as keep in mind, this is just a 24-inch model that replaces the 21.5-inch. I also hope that when Apple updates the 32-inch iMac, they fully remove the ugly chin and give it the Pro Display XDR treatment that we were all hoping for. At the top of the display, we also have a camera, which is a 1080p sensor. I believe this is the exact same sensor as on the 2020 iMac update. only that now we have the M1 chip which handles the ISP, and as we've seen in the M1 MacBook versus the Intel MacBook, the M1 can indeed make a webcam look significantly better, even if it is still using the same old hardware. Okay, now the second thing that I want to talk about is ports. So the previous model had 4 USB-A ports, 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, Gigabit Ethernet, and an SD card slot. The new model only has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports on the baseline, and then 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports alongside 2 USB-C ports on the higher end configuration. So we essentially lost the 4 USB-A ports as well as the SD card reader, and Ethernet is kinda gone as well. I'll explain that in just a bit. And overall, this is pretty bad. I also think that it sucks that only 2 USB-C ports or Thunderbolts on the higher end model, as I'm pretty sure I remember when Apple launched the 2016 MacBook Pro that he said that they didn't want users to have to figure out which of the ports were faster, so they gave all of them the same speed. Well, it seems that now Apple is going back on their promise, and we now have a mix of slow and fast ports, all which look the same, and the only visual difference between them is this Thunderbolt icon here. Now, I do get why they've made this though, as the M1 chip only supports 2 Thunderbolt ports. The M2 will likely fix that when it launches, but for now, all M1 Macs can only have 2 Thunderbolt ports max. Speaking of ports, the new iMac also has a magnetic charging cable, which is pretty cool. Now, it does seem very thick, which is a bit confusing as the iMac still uses the M1 chip, which is very power efficient, but I do like the fact that it matches the color of your iMac. Now, aside from that, we also get a headphone jack, but Apple has now repositioned this to the side rather than on the back, as apparently the length of the headphone jack would have been longer than the thickness of the iMac, so they had to fully reposition it. I do think that having it on the left is a better choice though, as you won't have to try to feel where the port is on the back whenever you want to connect a pair of headphones. So that's pretty much it in terms of the ports. Oh, actually, there's one last thing that I want to talk about, which is the power adapter. So it turns out that because of how thin the iMac is, Apple had to move the power supply outside of the device, and we now have this MacBook-like charger. I honestly don't mind that, and what's really cool about this new power adapter is that you can configure it to also come with an Ethernet port. Okay, so now I see why that charging cable is so thick. It is because it doesn't only carry power, it also carries the 1 gigabit Ethernet connection should you choose that option. I actually believe that's amazing to have, as it will make your desk look cleaner, and chances are that your Ethernet cable would come from your floor or your wall sockets anyways, so I think this is a great idea. Now, with this new iMac, we also get some new accessories for the first time since 2015. That's if you don't count the space gray colors that the iMac Pro introduced in 2017. The Magic Trackpad looks the same, only change being that it color matches your iMac, which is pretty cool. Magic Mouse, same thing, color matches your iMac. But a keyboard is entirely new. So it has a more rounded design now with an aluminum frame that also matches the color of your iMac. But what's really unique about this new keyboard is that it finally features Touch ID in place of that old eject button which no one really used. And that's pretty awesome because we've never had any biometrics on the iMac, and we finally have that with Touch ID. I was really hoping for Face ID, but I guess still better than not having it. But it turns out that if you buy the entry-level model, the keyboard that comes bundled only has a lock button and not Touch ID. Now you can upgrade that separately to a Touch ID keyboard, or you can simply get the higher end iMac, which does come bundled with the Touch ID keyboard. What I don't like about this keyboard is that you cannot buy it separately. So if you're like me and you have a MacBook, but you also want an external keyboard, you cannot get one that has Touch ID, unless you specifically buy an iMac for it. I'm pretty sure that Apple will make these available for separate purchase at some point in the near future, similar to what they've done with the iMac Pro keyboard. And finally, I want to talk a bit about the performance. So this new iMac comes with Apple's M1 processor. Same chip that we got in the new 2020 13-inch MacBook Pro, the 2020 MacBook Air, and the 2020 Mac Mini, and now the 2021 iPad Pro as well. The only difference being that we actually get a dual fan system, making this the only M1 device with more than just a fan. Now, I'm pretty curious to see if that changes things much in terms of actual, performance. So definitely do subscribe, as we'll be doing plenty of videos, including benchmarks, to fully test this out. I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get to see an M2 or at least an M1X processor alongside a dedicated GPU. But I guess that this is what that upcoming 32-inch iMac will be all about. A pro device that would offer pro levels of performance for pro users. The only issue is that GPU-wise, while it still outperforms every single integrated graphics, dedicated GPUs have turned out to be far more powerful. Reason why we cannot actually upgrade to this M1 iMac for our own production, as we do use 3D titles and effects, which none of the M1 chips can handle smoothly. At the end of the day, the iMac seems to be aimed at a younger audience. Children, teenagers, people who don't need a MacBook and just want to have a fun home computer that just works. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of that chin and the overall design, and are you getting an iMac, and if so, which color are you getting it in? Definitely subscribe if you want to see more interesting tech videos like this one hopefully was, and once again, we'll be doing videos on every single one of these products that Apple has announced at the event. Make sure you check out our iPad Pro video in case you missed that, with things you need to know before buying, and definitely hit the bell icon once again if you want to see more videos like this one in the future. Give us a like if you enjoyed it to let us know. It also helps the algorithm push our videos. But yeah, this has been pretty much it for this one. I'm Daniel, this has been Zen of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Zen of Tech, signing out. Cheers.